Managing self, the reflective mindset. Managing organizations, the analytic mindset. Managing context or projects, the worldly mindset. Managing relationships, the collaborative mindset. Managing change, the action mindset. If you are an entrepreneur, future manager, this would be your world. Let us make clear several characteristics of this set of sets. First, we make no claim that our framework is either scientific or comprehensive. It simply has proved useful in our work with managers, including in my coaching program. Secondly, we ask you to consider each of these managerial mindsets as an attitude, a frame of mind that opens new vistas. Unless you get into a reflective frame, for example, you cannot open yourself to new ideas. You might not even notice such ideas in the first place without a worldly frame of mind. And of course, you cannot appreciate the boosts, the vistas, and the opportunities of actions unless you engage in them. Thirdly, a word on our word is mindsets. We do not use it to set any manager's mind, and all of us had more than enough of that. Rather, we use the word in the spirit of fortune. One of us happened to pull out a Chinese cookie recently. Get your mindset. Confidence will lead you on. We ask you to get your mindset around 5 key ideas. Then, not just confidence, but coherence can lead you on. Think too, these mindsets as mind sights, perspectives, but be aware that improperly used, they can also be mindsights. Too much of any of them, obsessive analyzing or compulsive collaborating, for instance, and the mindset can blow up in your face. This is a frame in order to englobe what I have seen in previous sessions, like the 16 personalities, or the Ikigai, or the Golden Circle. We need to put ourselves well planted on the floor, on the ground of possible future entrepreneurial projects. Said this, let's begin. Welcome. This is Victor Marquez Rom, your entrepreneurial skills professor. The reflective mindset. Managers who are sent off to development courses often find themselves being welcomed to boot camps. This is no country club, they are warned. You'll have to work hard, but this is kind of wrong-headed. While managers certainly don't need a country club atmosphere for development, neither do they need this type of boot camps. Most managers, we know, already leave bootcamp every day. Besides, in real bootcamps, soldiers learn to march and obey, not to stop and think. These days, what we need is to stop and think, reflect, and be thoughtfully. Indeed, in this book, Rules for Radicals, Saul Alinsky makes the interesting point that events or happenings become experience only after they have been reflected upon thoughtfully. Most people do not accumulate a body of experience. Most people go through life undergoing a series of happenings, which pass through their systems undigested. Happenings become experiences when they are digested, when they are reflected on, related to general patterns and synthesized. These days, what managers and entrepreneurs desperately need is to stop and think, to step back and reflect thoughtfully on their experiences. Let's move on. The analytical mindset. Literally, analysis means to let loose, from the Greek ana, or Latin, meaning up, and lain, meaning like loosen. Analysis loosens up complex phenomena by breaking them into component parts, by decomposing them. Analysis happens everywhere, in context, industry analysis, with relationships, 360 degrees analysis, but it's especially related to organization. You simply can't get organized without analysis, especially in a large company or entrepreneurial project. Good analysis provides a language for organizing. It allows people to share an understanding of what is driving their efforts. It provides measures for performance, and organizational structure itself is fundamentally analytic. It is a means of decomposition to establish the division of labor. Just look at an organization or project. With all the boxes neatly lined up, picture the modern manager in an office in a tall building, looking down on the grid of the city below and across the offices of companies in other buildings. From this perspective, the manager does not see individual people so much as systems of organization, power, and communication. Turning around, that manager is surrounded by the push paraphernalia of his or her own company, the fruits of many people's tireless work on structures and systems and techniques. All of this represents analysis in the conventional sense, order and decomposition. How is such a manager to escape the analytic mindset? I prefer a different question, and please write it down. How is the manager to get truly inside the analytic mindset, beyond the superficialities of obvious analysis, into the essential meanings of structures and systems? The key to analyzing effectively is our view, is to get beyond conventional approaches in order to appreciate how analysis works and what effects it has on the organization. The worldly mindset. We live on a globe that from a distance looks pretty uniform. Globalization seems a word from a distance, assuming and encouraging a certain homogeneity of behavior. Is that what we want from our managers and entrepreneurs? A closer look reveals something rather different. Far from being uniform, this world is made up of all kinds of worlds. Should we not then be encouraging our managers to be more worldly, more experienced in life, in both sophisticated and practical ways? In other words, should we not be getting into worlds beyond our own, into other people's circumstances, habits, cultures, so that we can better know our own world? To paraphrase T.S. Eliot's famous words, should we not explore ceaselessly in order to return home and know the place for the first time? That to us is the worldly mindset. Being worldly does not require global coverage, just as global coverage does not a worldly mindset make. Indeed, global coverage does not even ensure a global perspective, given that the managers of so many global companies are rooted in the culture of the headquarters. But there's a company that seems to be reasonably global, as well as worldly. Shell, perhaps. Shell has of course long covered the globe, but because of social pressures, including a headquarters that has always had to work across two cultures, the Dutch and the British, it has struck us in personal contracts as rather worldly. By this we mean that the company tailors and blends its parts across the world, socially and environmentally, as well as economically. It must find and extract oil without violating the rights of the people under whose territories the oil sits. and it has to refine and sell that oil in ways that are respectful of the local environment. That may seem clear enough today, but think about what companies like Shell went through to get there. Be global, entrepreneurs are told, and be local. Change and maintain order. How is anyone supposed to reconcile all this? No one can. We conclude from this that while global managers may spend a lot of time in the air, and not just literally, they become worldly when their feet are planted firmly on the ground of eclectic experience. That means getting out of their offices, beyond the towers, to spend time where products are produced, customers served, and environments threatened. And these, my friends, are the basis of strategic planning. You have to be where and talk to customers, talk to suppliers, talk to corporate, talk to your fellow employees in order to get your offering and your workflow and your performance right. Bootcamps are a great way to learn things in a rapid way or an intensive way. But bootcamps have to let people stop, reflect, discuss, interact. Talk to possible customers, talk to possible suppliers, talk to possible founders or investors, talk to possible fellow employees. What each key stakeholder wants from the possible company, the new venture that will be opening up soon, like maybe a new app, or maybe like a new store, or a new e-commerce, or a brick and mortar company. Pause a little bit, reflect on this, write a little paragraph, take out your pen and paper, reflect, and comment me in the comment section, or by email, or in your future deliveries. Said this, let's continue. The collaborative mindset. It need hardly be said that managing is about working with people, not just as bosses and subordinates, but more important, as colleagues and partners. Yet, despite all the rhetoric about collaboration, in the West at least, we often take a narrow view. Thanks to the influence of economic theory, we see people as independent factors, detachable human resources or assets that can be moved around, bought and sold, combined and downsizes. That is not a collaborative mindset. If you picture yourself on top of a network, looking down on it, then you are out of it. How can you possibly manage a project or relationships in this way? In fact, our own original definition of the collaborative mindset got a jolt when a Japanese company began to design the program's model. It had been called managing people, but they point out that a truly collaborative mindset does not involve managing people so much as the relationships among people, in teams and projects as well as across divisions and alliances. Getting into a truly collaborative mindset means getting beyond empowerment, a word implying that the people who know the work best must somehow receive the blessing of their managers to do it, and into commitment. It also means getting away from the currently popular heroic style of managing or founding a company, moving toward a more engaging style. Engaging managers listen more than they talk. They get out of their offices to see and feel more the terrain they remain in them to sit and figure. By being worldly themselves, they foster collaboration among others, and they do less controlling, thus allowing other people to be in greater control of their own work. If I deem so that you do, is the implicit motto of the heroic manager. Then for the engaging manager it is, we dream, so that we do. That Japanese colleagues call the leadership in the background. It is as many ordinary people as possible lead. When the famous author John Kotter was asked if the members of the Harvard Business School, whose careers he followed in his book The New Rules, were team players, he replied, I think it's fair to say that these people want to create a team and lead it to some glory as opposed to being a member of a team that's being driven by somebody else. Wait, that is not a collaborative mindset. Having to run the team may be necessary at times, although we suspect it's needed far less often than most people think. But it hardly represents a collaborative point of view, nor does it foster teamwork. Leaders don't do most of the things that their organizations get done. They do not even make them get done. Rather, they help to establish the structures, conditions, and attitudes through which things get done. And that requires a collaborative mindset. We talk a great deal about networks these days, as well as teams, task forces, alliances, and knowledge work, yet we still picture managers on top. Well then, picture yourself on top of a network, looking down on it. That puts you out of it. How can you possibly manage its relationships that way? To be in a collaborative mindset means to be inside, to manage throughout, but it has a more profound meaning too. To get management beyond managers, to distribute it so that the responsibility flows naturally to whoever can take the initiative and pull things together. Think of self-managing teams, of skunk works, indeed, think of who managed the World Wide Web, for example. Managing change. The action mindset. Imagine your organization as a chariot pulled by wild horses. That may be easy for you to do. These horses represent emotions, aspirations, and motives of all the people in the organization. Holding a steady course requires just as much skill as steering around to a new direction. Philosophers from Plato to Vivekananda have used this metaphor to describe the need to harness emotional energy. It works well for management and entrepreneurship. An action mindset, especially at a senior level, is not about whipping the horses into frenzy, careering, and John. It's about developing a sensitive awareness of the terrain, of what the team is capable of doing, and thereby helping to set and maintain direction, coaxing everyone along. Action, and especially change, need no introduction. Everybody today understands them, and the need for them. That's the problem. There is now an overwhelming emphasis on action at the expense of reflection. The Red Cross Federation is unusual, not in experiencing this problem, but in being aware of it. In addition, people are obsessed with change these days. We are told relentlessly that we live in times of great change, that everything is changing, so we had better to be in a constant state of alert, change or else. Well, then look around. What do you see that has changed recently? Your clothing, your grandparents wear cotton and wool, but they buttoned buttons. Your car, it uses the basic technology of the Model T. The airplane you're flying in, that technology is newer. The first commercial jet aircraft took flight in 1952. Your telephone, that changed about 20 years ago, unless of course you are not using a cellular phone or smartphone. Our point here is not that nothing is changing. No, something is always changing. Right now it is information technology. But many other things are not changing at all. And these we don't notice, the buttons. We tend to focus on what is changing and conclude that everything is. That is hardly a reflective mindset, and it is detrimental as well to the action mindset. We have to sober up people to the reality that change is not pervasive, and that the phenomenon of change is not new. If the reflective mindset has to respect history, then the action mindset could use a little humility. Change has no meaning without continuity. There is a name for everything changing all the time. That is anarchy. No one wants to live with that. Certainly no organization that wishes to survive. Or project. Businesses are judged by the products they sell and the services they render, not the changes they make. So change cannot be managed without continuity. Accordingly, the trick in the action mindset is to mobilize energy around those things that need changing, while being careful to maintain the rest. And please make no mistake about it, managing continuity is no easier than managing change. Remember that, wild horses. The dominant view of managing change is Cartesian. Action results from deliberate strategies, carefully planned, that unfold as systematically managed sequence of decisions. That is the analytic mindset, not the action mindset. Monsanto went into genetically engineered agriculture with that approach, with its strategy all worked out in advance. With cotton of seed varieties and certain pesticides and fertilizers, it could bring an entire ecosystem to the market. And it had the research capacity and presence worldwide to do it. So it set about a series of brilliantly conceived acquisitions and effectively positioned the company to be just the kind, or maybe the Microsoft of agrobusiness. But the farmers and consumers weren't there. They were more enthusiastic about continuity at that point, and the plan collapsed. Change, to be successful, cannot follow some mechanistic schedule of steps of formulation followed by implementation. Action and reflection have to blend in a natural flow, and that has to include collaboration. Satish Kumar, the director of the Schumacher Institute in the United Kingdom, put it nicely in the title of his latest book, "You Are Therefore I Am, a Declaration of Dependence." We had better be reflectively collaborative, as well as analytically worldly, if we wish to accomplish effective change. Of course, energized action is necessary, but that doesn't mean being hyperactive or fiddling around endlessly with structure. It means remaining curious, alert, experimental, visual. Changing is a learning process, and so is maintaining course. We may think of stasis as the north and change as driving, but it does not have to be that way. Active members of an organization may resist change, impose on them, because they understand that the change would be dysfunctional. And they in turn may engage in silent change of their own, continually recreating operations for better performance. So, what do you think? What action an entrepreneurial mindset reflects upon you? Do you think that change is always necessary? Or also continuity in order to analyze change? In order for us to think, imagine new types of ventures and companies, like the Amazons in their time, or the new apps, the Ubers, the Airbnbs. Stop a little bit, try to make some research, go to TechCrunch and see the latest founding startups to see what is going on in the startup market. Thank you and see you then.